What are the primary goals of the research quality management plan in the OB department? So overall, the mission of the RQMP, as it's called, is to innovate and implement best practices for research quality, scientific integrity, and accountability throughout the School of Medicine. In order to do that, all the departments have developed their own scientific culture and accountability plan, which hopefully, I know almost half of the department has attested to. Hopefully we'll get the rest of the department to read and attest to. And that just outlines some goals and missions in the department so that we can develop and follow best practices to ensure that our research does have the highest level of quality and accountability. The RQMP is part of a larger mission throughout the university to develop best practices for accountability and quality. And it's not necessarily in response to some of the actions and sanctions of the past few years. It's really also driven by the fact that research quality and research size and scope in the university has grown so much that individual investigators or research teams were having to develop new practices in data management or resource sharing on their own. And at times they would have to really look into or figure out how to develop these strategies or plans for their team so that they align with the best practices and ensure scientific integrity. And so rather than having each recognizing that the needs of the research groups across Duke are varied and increasingly complex, it made sense to share some of the best practices that address the common challenges researchers had across these areas that potentially could impact data quality and integrity. Develop these best practices, individualize them for our individual departments, and then make them public so researchers could share and benefit from them. And so really the next question is, how do I anticipate that the OBGYN faculty and staff benefit from the RQMP? You know, as I think having a set of standards and standard practices that we can refer to and operationalize when we're putting new protocols into place, designing new data management plans, when we have questions about new regulations and how they would impact our studies. Now we have a resource that we can refer to. We have a shared community across Duke, so people who are encountering similar questions or potentially challenges can utilize some of the common strategies in the RQMPs. And so I think in many ways, we're going to streamline some of the work for the research teams across the department. And we're going to ensure that people and teams don't inadvertently run into data quality or integrity issues because they're trying to devise a practice or a strategy that will solve their research question or research problem. So how can the OB faculty and staff contribute to improving the quality of their research as individually, and how can we collectively work to improve it as a department? And I think most importantly, how will our research faculty and staff benefit from these improvements across the department? Well, I think the first thing that faculty and staff can do is read this gap, comment on this gap. This is a document that we created in partnership with Docker to really reflect the values and the mission of the research teams in our department. I think we have a very effective draft now that reflects our values and missions, but we're very happy to receive feedback, and we want this to be a living document. We want our team, myself and Mark as the research quality management team in the department, to get feedback from you. So come to us if you have a question, if you have a question about general practices, if you have a specific question about research that's going on or how your research project may fit into or come up against some of the practices we're outlining. If you want to get involved or have a new initiative to improve quality, we also welcome involvement, multi-sectoral involvement from the department. And so I think as an individual, reading the SCAP that we have, thinking about it, commenting on it, and following it, really working to make these best practices an integral part of your research is going to be important. And I think and I think will provide individual benefits to your productivity and the quality of the research. And then as a department, I think that we can provide, I think we can be a model of best practices. So signing on to the SCAP, really promoting some of the best practices that are outlined in the SCAP and in our research quality management plan. And then I think that is going to be reflected in the quality of the work that is put out from the department. And so what are some of the questions that have been asked by research faculty related to the research quality management plan? So I think sometimes people get a button to push or a requirement in their email, and they think it's just another requirement, or it's going to be something that, you know, is more regulations on their research. While we do want everyone to attest to having reviewed the SCAP for our department, I don't want faculty to think this is another administrative burden. I think it's an important document, and we want everyone to feel like they have some ownership over this document. And then the research quality management plan, when we publish it for the department, we don't want faculty to think, again, of this as more regulatory hurdles or regulations that they are going to have. We want them to think of this as a blueprint, a resource document, so they can have questions. If they have questions about how to design, develop their data management plan, think about conflict of interest, if they want to think about or have questions about how things all fit together in terms of ensuring research quality and accountability, this is the document that they can go to get some of those questions. It's a resource document because if they don't feel like the data management plan that they have works, they can figure out where they can get help to develop a new data management plan, how they can structure teams within their divisions to be more effective, how they can get more training in various aspects of research quality and integrity. And then I think importantly, if there are ever questions or concerns that they don't feel comfortable bringing up to their supervisors or other people in their research teams, there are very clear structures in place where they can go and be protected to bring up questions or concerns in a safe way without fear of retribution, and ensure that those are appropriately investigated. We want this to be a very transparent system, but we also want to protect people who have concerns and make sure that there's always a clear chain through which they can address these concerns if they have them.